Hey everyone, Prince Gideon here. I came across this article during the time it was written by a guy named Joshua Hardman. Look at that CPAC grin. The article is called Unificationists in the Voting Booth, and I gotta say it was a very well made, unbiased article. He gathered unificationists' opinions on who they want to vote for and why, such as Trump, Hillary, Gary Johnson, Jill Stein, and Bernie Sanders. We always knew there were liberal and conservative Moonies, but I never really got a clear answer from each of their political stances based on the principle. The conservatives in this article that I felt were coming from an understanding of father fighting against communism, encouraging Reagan to win in the 80s, strong stance on family values, and father making the Washington Times, which was known to have a conservative point of view, yet not mentioning the principle. Yet on the liberal side, there was a Bernie Sanders supporter who was the only one that quoted the divine principle to support his or her stance. Here's what the person said, and quote,
God's plan is to develop a socialistic economy, although with the form and content utterly different from the state socialism that communism actually established. We need socialism centered on your parents' teachings of living for the sake of others. You do not build a God-centered polity by blindly electing a candidate who claims to be a Christian. These are no longer the days of the Red Scare. Sanders' democratic socialism is not Mao's communism. It's in page 341.
It doesn't only say it there, but multiple times the principle has mentioned socialism as if it were good, and this confuses the heck out of Moody's. On the unificationist conservative side, they have a better understanding of politics, economics, and yet get stumped by the principle. But the liberals seem to have the principle backing up their idea of socialism, yet they don't have an idea of the kingdom how it will look like. So from both sides, I always hear,
Who knows? We'll never understand how the kingdom will look like. It's just too far away.
Okay, let's unravel this quagmire and make sense of where the DP stands. First, economically. Before I go on, let me define what socialism and capitalism is, because it's like so confusing. Capitalism, how I like to quickly put it, is a system of a people who freely associate with one another in exchange of goods and services. Now, I know the stigma what capitalism has with the evil corporations, but really these corporations are in cahoots with government, and they benefit each other by oppressing the people through creating more laws that big businesses can get away with. And we call that in our modern day society crony capitalism, where it doesn't involve a free people. Socialism, on the other hand, is government involved in private affairs and owning people's property through taxation, like property tax, income tax, etc. Alright, since we got that out of the way, let's go back to the quote that was mentioned earlier.
God's plan is to develop a socialistic economy, although with the form and content utterly...
Stop! Okay, do you see that? Utterly different from state socialism. Utterly different. Utterly different. Utterly different. Okay, I don't know how much more obvious I can get. So what the heck is this socialism the DP speaks of if it has nothing to do with government? Well, we're gonna find out. Throughout the chapter on preparation for the Messiah, it talks about the Abel type wave culture compared to the Cain type wave culture.
Help! Help!
Yo, chill. It just means ancient Greek culture. Abel type being driven by their original nature in search for religious freedom and realize our God-given value within each person, while Cain type pursued the sciences, rationalism, logic and reason, and humanism. And eventually these two cultures are to unite and create a heavenly society centered on God. And what it means by uniting is not like this.
Duh.
It's like this. And then, on the Abel type side of democracies, clearly the champion making way for Christ at his second coming. Nowhere does it say that Cain type culture was central to open up the way for Christ to come, but there are some essence of Cain's culture that could be assimilated into God's culture, like that of logic, reason, and science! If anything, Cain type culture is supposed to submit to Abel type culture. Don't worry, I'm getting to the economics. What?
You didn't get to Thomas More's Utopia Christian Socialism!
I know, I'm getting there! Jeez! Right. So, on Thomas More Christian Socialism, you see the principle uses examples to understand how the kingdom will look like, so it mentions the novel Utopia from Thomas More, which talks about a society that has no private property, everything is public, and there's fair distribution of wealth.
So at first glance, it seems the DP would accept state socialism, but then it progresses to Robert Owen. When studying about him, he was a socialist that believed in peaceful cooperation without the use of force, or in other words, initiating violence. Finally, it escalates to Charles Kingsley, who coined the term Christian socialism. In the early 1800s, he fought against an unregulated, corrupted, laissez-faire capitalism in Britain, which sounds like what every liberal nowadays would say. Fight against the corporations, man! Give us free shit! Yet, his answer was not to use government force to regulate businesses, but for businesses to be centered on Christian principles, to adopt Christian principles. He actually believed in a voluntary, peaceful cooperation centered on Christian values and treat each other as their brother's keeper. But was it really laissez-faire capitalism in 1800s Britain? ... No! They lied to you, man. The economic system that was happening in the 1800s in Britain was actually called mercantilism.
What's that?
Yeah, not a lot of people heard about mercantilism. So let me explain. It is an economic system where the goal is for government to grow its national economic empire through the use of colonies from afar and businesses in the mainland. Because mercantilism creates national monopolies off of other countries' expenses, it actually breeds crony capitalism with big businesses that help support the government's cause. So if we try to understand what the DP meant by socialism going towards a heavenly direction, is not how we think of state socialism today with the government's force of redistribution of wealth, but socialism that embodies interdependence, mutual prosperity, and universally shared values. A heavenly socialism where Reverend Moon said a world of people that is ruled by their conscience. If we look at it externally, it would be a free people that voluntarily associate with goods and services. But socialism in a spiritual sense where they are ruled by their personal relationship with God, not by a Greek mob ruling democratic style that leads to communism. Which, I remember I came across people who mentioned what Reverend Moon said in verbatim.
In the kingdom, when one person's in pain, everyone is in pain. He wants to comfort that person.
And then these people would mention,
And the pain is mutual prosperity, universally shared values.
and thus the answer to all this is
Government!
What are you doing to me? When looking at how the divine principle describes these three, it explicitly denounces state socialism that leads to communism. Okay, look, hang on with me tight. We are almost done. Read, listen, and watch graphs at the same time. It makes perfect sense. I don't know how else to describe it to you. It makes sense that if the heavenly society is filled with mature people, then if someone were in pain, then a free, mature person would come to that person's aid, not relying on a monolithic government to steal other people's money to aid that person. Because if it's done that way, well then logically everyone would then be in pain. Hey everyone, sorry for the long hold up. I started this video for a long time. If you haven't noticed, the audio quality is quite bad. And I've been busy with many things in my life, and it's really hard to consistently make good videos. I hope you guys enjoy this one. The next one is on the political structure of what Jungkook will look like, described in Part 2, Chapter 5 of Preparation 3.2, Separation of Powers. Wish everyone a good day, and don't forget to like and subscribe. Peace out.